Hello, everybody. I'm Ocean Robbins. So excited that in about 14 minutes, we're going to begin our broadcast of episode 5 of the Food Revolution Summit docuseries. Today, our focus is Heartbeat of Life, how diet and lifestyle can end the world's #1 killer. If you just joined us, we'll be starting episode 5 in about 14 minutes, and I'm Ocean Robbins, welcoming you here. As we move through the day, please post and share in the comment section on the broadcast page. Tell us your top takeaways, your aha moments, and what this all means in your life. Refresh those comments using the button provided there so you can see the most recent ones that have been submitted, and then you can respond to other people's posts as well. Pat said, I almost skipped this episode, referring to yesterday's episode focused on beauty and vitality. Pat said, primarily because I don't wear cosmetics and use very few skincare products. However, I'm so glad I did not. It was so empowering and filled with valuable information, not only about nutrition, but about self-love and acceptance. I thought it was the best episode so far. Thank you. Thank you, Pat. We've received a wonderful response to yesterday's episode. Absolutely. And I'm so glad you found it valuable and that you joined us. Joanna said, thank you for doing this. This is long overdue. I'm sitting here in tears because I went through bulimia and anorexia to the point where I was going to lose my life, all because of the media and magazines. Obviously, I didn't have any self-worth. I'm happy to say that I'm healthier now. I still struggle with body image. This episode is so needed, and it's different than any you have ever done. I've been coming to your summit for a few years now, and you guys are truly revolutionary. Thank you so much. Joanna, thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing your very moving story. And I'm so glad that you found value yesterday, and that you are here, and that you made it through such a dark time. I'm so glad you're here. And thank you for hearing the message of self-worth and self-love. Really, the point of healthy eating isn't to add another should, another inner critic, another reason to degrade ourselves. The point of healthy eating is to love ourselves more, to bring more self-care. Every bite can be an act of self-nourishment. You can be saying to your cells, I care about you and I love you and I want the best for you. And when you bring that attitude into your diet and lifestyle choices, then rigor towards healthy eating becomes something beautiful and nourishing and uplifting. I think that some people do eat healthy more as a way of self-criticism, as a kind of inner critic that's shaming and blaming. And when that is the attitude, we will not get, I believe, the results we want. There's the old saying that a person who eats beer and franks with cheer and thanks will probably be healthier in the long run than a person who eats sprouts and bread with doubts and dread. Well, maybe that could be updated because bread's no longer considered a health food by most people. But yeah, I think you get the point. Bringing cheer, thanks, self-love, beauty, joy into our lives, into our hearts, into our relationship with food can make that food more nourishing and make an expression of self-love. So thank you for getting that message and being a part of this journey with us. Jamie said, vegetarian for 50 years, started at 27, now 77. I keep learning. Now eat almost all non-processed foods. Just went to the grocery store. A clerk complimented me on my skin. She could not believe it when I told her my age, and I was wearing no makeup today. Wonderful, Jamie. So glad to hear that. And congratulations on feeling good and healthy and looking good at 77. Jeanette said, this is one of the most profound segments produced. I loved how this unit began because it struck an emotional chord in me I hadn't expected. I actually wept a bit in more than one area. Thank you for speaking up for men and boys. Thank you for addressing the underlying emotional aspects of food awareness and heartfelt kindness to self. In providing solutions, you are saving lives. I'm amazed at how powerful this summit is. Thank you for helping me. Jeanette, thank you so much for being here and for your kind words and for being a part of this journey with us. Robin said, I've been enjoying the docuseries so much that I want it forever. Going to start Whole Foods plant-based tomorrow again and stay on it this time forever. My life literally depends on it with all my illnesses. Again, thank you. Robin, thank you. And there's the saying that pain pushes and vision pulls. Sometimes we are propelled forward by our fear of loss, by illness that could even threaten our lives. Sometimes we're propelled forward by our vision and our dreams and our hopes and what we most want for our lives. Both can be powerful, motivating forces. It sounds like right now you are experiencing the urgency that if you continue on your current course, then suffering may be in your future. And it sounds like you also may discover as you go through this journey that there's a lot more beauty and joy, vitality possible on the other side. So thank you for being here. I hope that you are able to continue this learning journey, and you're going to learn a lot today as we focus on cardiovascular health. Ray said, I so love Chris Carr's message that you are precious. It gave me chills to the top of my head. Yes, thank you, Ray. Sharon said, I started cooking for my son about 9 months ago in hopes that he can lose weight. He has extreme pain from inflammation and has trouble with movement. He gained over 150 pounds in 5 years. He's lost over 40 pounds so far. We're now switching over to a plant-based diet so that he can lose at least 200 more pounds. This series has been very informative and helpful. I especially enjoyed episode 3. I wish that I could remember everything. I'll be going through my notes for quite a while since this new way of eating is very different from what I've been used to most of my life. I'm looking forward to learning more in the rest of this series. Thank you for helping us in our efforts to get healthier. Sharon, thank you for being here, and I just want to send so much love to you and your son, and we want to make it a bit easier for you to absorb all this, perhaps to share it with him, and to make use of this for life, because it sounds like there's real urgency here for both of you. So we're going to gift you with an empowerment package. You'll own all the recordings and all the transcripts of the entire summit for life. You'll also own the extended interviews. And since it sounds like weight issues are a big concern here, make sure you tune in tomorrow for episode 6 when we focus on diabesity and also the extended interviews. Especially check out the one with Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson. I think you may find that incredibly valuable. She's really cracked the code on how to help us enjoy more right-sized bodies and get freedom around food so that we become the author of our food lives. For everybody out there who struggles with food addiction, who finds yourself sometimes on the wrong end of an empty bag of cookies or chips, who finds yourself craving foods, obsessing about foods that you know are not in your best interests, you're going to find this incredibly valuable. And Sharon, bless you on your journey and your son as well. Mary said, thank you, Ocean. As always, a beautiful, heartfelt presentation. Your passion is evident through your delivery. Thank you so much, Mary. She said, here and always to support you by purchasing the empowerment packages. Love that you plant organic fruit trees in lower income neighborhoods. Sending you continued love and light. Thank you so much, Mary. This is something a lot of folks don't know, but I want to make sure everybody does know, is that for every empowerment package purchased, FRN donates to Trees for the Future so that they can plant another organic fruit or nut tree in a low-income community. Primarily, they're working in Africa. And to us, this is a wonderful thing. We've funded the planting of more than 500,000 organic fruit or nut trees over the years. And this is directly bringing, reforestation, but also healthy food into some of the communities that need it the most. And that's one of the things you help us to do, along with spreading the word and carrying this mission forward when you invest in an empowerment package. So for all of you who are in a position to do so, thank you so much for investing in your health and also for supporting our mission. Morgan said, in today's video, there was mention of avoiding a diet too low in fat because fat's an essential supporting element for health and beauty. How do I balance that against the whole food philosophy that avoids oils completely? Well, Morgan, thank you so much for asking this important question. The truth is, healthy fats are a critical part of a healthy diet, and you can get lots of healthy fats from whole foods, and that's generally what we recommend the most. You can get awesome healthy fats from avocados, nuts and seeds, from olives, though you want to be mindful of the sodium content. And of course, there are some amounts of fats in just about everything. But I also want to say that, and let me add that chia seeds and flax seeds are particularly awesome, and you can use them in lots and lots of places, ground up, added to savory and even sweet dishes. And avocado is great on things, and mixing nuts into chopped salads. There are lots of options. And while many of our speakers generally promote getting your fats from whole foods, and that's what we promote at FRN as well, I want to add that the research is out there on olive oil and avocado oil showing that for most people, they seem to be fairly positive in terms of their health effects. So in our family, we do use some olive oil, some avocado oil, occasionally a few other types of oils. We steer clear of corn oil, of soybean oil, of the hydrogenated oils, and a lot of the other oils that you see on the marketplace. But a bit of olive or avocado oil can have some benefit according to the research that we see. And that said, it's a processed food. And so whole foods are almost always more optimal. And that's why getting lots of healthy fats from healthy whole foods can be awesome for a healthy life. If you just joined us, we'll be starting episode 5 in the Food Revolution Summit docuseries in just a few minutes now. I'm Ocean Robbins, sharing some welcoming words. And today our focus is going to be on cardiovascular health. Did you know that heart disease takes more human lives than any other cause of death on the planet by far? And while tens of millions of people rely on medications to keep their symptoms at bay, these drugs do come with some real side effects. The good news is that all natural food and lifestyle habits have been proven to slash the risk of heart disease dramatically. And the number one place to start is with the food on your plate. So in today's episode, we're going to offer some evidence-based dietary recommendations for preventing and reversing cardiovascular disease. We're going to look at the role of antioxidants and fiber and omega-3 fatty acids. We're going to look at calcium and other nutrients to be aware of. We're going to unravel the culprits behind heart attacks and strokes and high blood pressure and high cholesterol levels. We're going to clear up confusion about fats and cholesterol and sugar and salt and processed foods. And we're going to share some powerful stories that just might bring you to tears. Alfred Poon said, "I'm from Hong Kong. It's my first time joining the summit. It's been eye-opening, intensive, and an awakening learning experience for me to not only understand how to eat well, but how to live a better life. Despite staying late at night and working hard to catch up the most updated knowledge through video replay, I just cannot wait to share this summit and knowledge with all my friends, both overseas and in Hong Kong. I'm sure it will be a big paradigm shift to most of them. Most sincere thanks." Well, Alfred, we are so glad that you're here with us. Thank you for joining us from Hong Kong. I know the time difference is significant, and thank you for being in on this journey with us and for spreading the word to the people in your life. Teresa said, "Wow, this episode hit home with me since I'm on a 1.5-year journey with rheumatoid arthritis. I've changed my diet to whole food plant-based 3 months ago. The arthritis was so debilitating, I lost 25 pounds I didn't need to lose. I feel I've aged a lot and lost muscle. The physical pain slowed my activity and social time, which affected my self-worth and esteem. I've gained weight, pain is easing, and I'm able to get out and socialize. The quote, 'I am grateful for this human experience,' really resonated with me. Thank you." Well, Teresa, thank you. So sorry you've been through so much pain and suffering, and I'm so glad that you're finding yourself on a track towards feeling better. Let's see, lots of questions, but we'll get to more of those after the next episode. Renata said, "I make fruit and veggie smoothies every day in my blender. Does that deplete the fiber?" Thank you again for this amazing series. Well, Renata, smoothies actually might help you get more fiber because blending foods helps to preserve the fiber, unlike juicing, which separates out the fiber from the juice. So smoothies, compared to juicing, can get you a lot more fiber. And they actually retain that fiber, which helps you to feel fuller and slow your digestion, which can be wonderful. So yeah, smoothies are a great way to increase fiber intake throughout the day. But just warning, don't base them on fruit juices or even fruits. Put lots of veggies in there for optimal health. All right, well, it looks like we are about ready to start our next episode as we go through the day. Post and engage in the comment section on the broadcast page. Enjoy now, episode 5.
It's time for a food revolution.
The food revolution is impactful.
The food revolution is transformative.
Compassion.
It's time for a food revolution.
The food revolution is life.
The future of medicine.
Long overdue.
It's time.
It's time.
It is time for a food revolution.
The food revolution is our future.
It's power to change the world.
And it's available for everyone.
It's time for a food revolution.
It's time for a food revolution.
Join the food revolution.
Join the food revolution.
Now is the time.
Every moment of every day, your heart is beating and keeping you alive. Right now, it's delivering oxygen and nutrients to every one of your body's 37 trillion cells. And it keeps right on going whether you're sleeping or awake and whether you're paying attention or not.
But right now, billions of us, including almost half of all Americans, have cardiovascular disease. Most people don't even know they've got it until it's too late. It may show up as heart disease or high blood pressure, heart attack, stroke, sexual dysfunction, chest pain, lightheadedness, or fatigue. Whatever the symptoms may be, cardiovascular disease is by far the world's leading cause of death.
What's causing this crisis? According to thousands of studies published in peer-reviewed medical journals, the biggest factors are specific foods we eat and particular things we do. And that's actually great news because it means that the power to reclaim your health lies in your hands. I'm John Robbins.
And I'm Ocean Robbins, and you are watching the 2024 Food Revolution Summit.
We have today an overwhelming body of evidence that a whole foods, plant-powered diet can be extraordinarily protective against cardiovascular disease.
And yet, still today, most cardiologists are not familiar with this data. Why is that?
If you were to attend the American College of Cardiology annual conference and checked out the exhibit floor, you'd see about 300 exhibitors, all with fancy booths and sophisticated ways of attracting your attention. Of all these hundreds of exhibitors, probably 99% represent a drug or an invasive procedure or an intervention. And this is the case even though we know that what people are eating is the number one factor in determining their heart health.
The drug industry obviously has an enormous amount of control over how medicine is practiced, which is one of the reasons that when you look at medical education, you see an almost complete disregard for nutrition.
And also, to my eyes, drugs sometimes seem to give patients license to stick with bad habits by masking the symptoms of disease. There's a phrase, the McLipitor syndrome, that refers to people who take statins and then thinking that since the drug has them covered, they can eat all the Big Macs they might want.
Statins are the biggest selling class of pharmaceutical compounds of all time, with annual sales of more than $22 billion. The most popular statin, Lipitor, is also the most financially successful drug product of all time.
Yes, and these drugs have unquestionably saved lives. But I must say that it gives me pause to see cardiologists eating hamburgers and taking statins and telling their patients it's fine to do the same. Now, fortunately, there are many cardiologists and other physicians who are waking up to the incredible healing power of an optimal diet for your heart and your life. Some of them are becoming world-changing authorities and lighting the way to a healthier future for all of us.
And we're grateful to have many of them in this summit.
Men and women equally are at risk for the number one killer in the Western world, dropping dead suddenly, a very, very dramatic, sad episode that affects more than 1,000 people a day in the United States, called sudden cardiac death. Others manifest heart attacks but survive, but their life's never the same. Some people just have their quality of life because they're short of breath, they're having angina discomfort. Some people are burdened by medications, procedures, expenses, early retirements. It is an enormous problem, and we know it's a interplay of lifestyle and genetics, and in terms of lifestyle, food being the most important choices, and it is a largely reversible disease.
Cardiovascular disease is not an isolated thing. If you have cardiovascular disease, chances are every blood vessel in your body is affected. What a lot of people don't realize is when you have a heart attack, or we do a stent or a bypass surgery, the disease doesn't go away. We've literally bypassed it or put a piece of metal in and pushed up all those years of cheesesteaks somebody was eating, and they're still there. They're squished up against the walls. And so coronary artery disease, through an inflammatory mechanism, is a systemic disease that affects every blood vessel in the body, which is why we typically see people who have cardiovascular disease, coronary disease, have cerebrovascular disease, peripheral arterial disease, erectile dysfunction. They're all vascular diseases. So in my book, they're all the same thing, just in different vascular beds.
Essentially, 100% of Americans, except for the very small percentage who follow the proper diet and lifestyle strictly, have some degree of plaque that's built up in their coronary arteries and other vessels in their body. Cholesterol-based plaque, fatty streaks are the start, and it progresses, and eventually in adulthood can trigger an event. We know this plaque starts in childhood. It's a lifelong process. 3-year-olds already have fatty streaks. There's even a crazy study that showed pregnant women who have crazy high genetic cholesterol, their unborn fetuses are already developing fatty streaks in their arteries.
Sadly, it's the standard American lifestyle. That's basically a heart disease in a nutshell. I mean, I'll give you the way I think about it, the way I relate it to my patients. So first, the American curse, as I call it, is you work hard your whole life, you save your money, you retire, and then what do you look forward to? Heart attacks, strokes, dementia, erectile dysfunction. Sounds like a terrible way to retire. And when I was growing up, and I grew up in New York, right? So, 3 inches of cream cheese, 7 inches of pastrami, piece of pizza weighed 5 pounds. 100% of my parents, friends' parents, nobody was spared, had heart attacks, bypass surgery, breast cancer, colon cancer, or they dropped dead. Why? We ate and drank like kings and queens and barely moved.
When you look at the numbers, it is just absolutely mind-boggling that heart disease has been the #1 cause of death in our country every single year since 1919. The last time it wasn't the #1 cause of death was 1918, which was the Spanish flu pandemic. Every year since then, heart disease #1, cancer #2. About 500,000 Americans every year die from heart disease. And to put that in perspective, that's more than the number of American soldiers that died in combat in all wars in American history combined ever. 1 year of heart disease deaths.
And heart attacks can happen to even seemingly very healthy people at times when they might least expect it. This is something that's well known to cardiologists, and particularly to the cardiologist we just heard from, Dr. Stephen Loam. Dr. Loam experienced something extraordinary during the Monterey Bay Half Marathon in late 2022. He started that beautiful November day thinking he was just going to enjoy running the race. But as you will see, life had other plans for him.
A miraculous story that's almost too good to be true. Sunday, November 13th, 2022, the Monterey Bay Half Marathon kicks off at 7. Greg Gonzalez, Michael Heileman, and Dr. Stephen Loam set out on the route.
I felt really well, no issues whatsoever.
Gonzalez gets to mile 3.
I go, oh my gosh, 10 more to go, no problem. Last thing I remembered.
I saw a runner collapse.
Dr. Loam, a chomp cardiologist, happens to be steps behind him.
There was no pulse and he wasn't breathing. And I thought, oh my gosh, full cardiac arrest.
He starts CPR, unbelievably his first time doing it outside of the hospital. Meantime, Heileman runs by, seeing the runner down, remembering his father's heart attack during a race years ago.
We saw him down and getting CPR, and were saying that we were hoping that he was okay. And as we went, we started talking about, what had happened to my dad and how rare it sort of was.
It was the longest 5 minutes of my life waiting for the defibrillator to come, but we got it there.
I woke up in an ambulance going, uh-oh, something happened.
It was a fatal arrhythmia called ventricular fibrillation. The only way for that to go away is a shock, and without a shock, you don't make it. But he did wake up, and we got him into the ambulance stable, and a little frazzled, but I still wasn't last place, so I figured might as well just keep on running.
And this guy, how lucky was he at mile 3? He could have been on a training run and nobody would have been around, and he would have been done. Because without the intervention, he wouldn't have made it. And my kids at that time, my 2 older kids, Jaden and Ian, 16 and 15 years old, they're way ahead of me thinking, Dad's just slow. What's going on, Dad? So I said, all right, I'm going to keep going.
So both Dr. Lohm and Heilemann continue on their way. Heilemann crosses the finish line first.
I started to feel dizzy, so I held onto the rail for a second. And then the next thing I knew, I woke up.
Dr. Lohm finishes the race moments later.
I threw my arms up in the air thinking, yay, I finished, thank goodness. And then I hear somebody say, we need some help over here. And I thought to myself, you gotta be kidding. He probably just fainted. There's no way this is happening again.
But it did. Dr. Lohm jumps into action for a second time that day, performing CPR to save another runner's life.
He had no pulse, he wasn't breathing, and probably within 20 or 30 seconds of him collapsing, started chest compressions and CPR once again. We were able to hook him up and shock him within about 1 minute. And he woke up real quick, confused, and stopped the Strava app on his watch so he can record the time and tried to get up.
It was hard to believe. I had no symptoms. I felt fine the whole race.
It's really mind-blowing. When you look at the research, they say about 1 in 200,000 race participants in a half marathon or marathon have a cardiac arrest. There's about 5,000 runners there. It makes it about a 1 in 40 chance of it happening once and about 1 in 1,600 chance of it happening twice in a race. But what are the odds of them both surviving? Only 30% of people survive, and the same cardiologist literally right behind them both. Absolutely crazy.
Ends up, both these runners had no prior history of heart disease. They had had no prior symptoms. They both had severe stenosis, blockage in the left anterior descending coronary artery, otherwise known as the widowmaker, which the stress of all the running and everything, when you're not getting enough blood flow, triggered the fatal rhythm. Both of them were treated at the hospital, at the community hospital in Monterey Peninsula, and made full recoveries, complete full recoveries with no residual leftover neurologic defect or anything, and their heart strength remains completely strong. That is the message to give, is that, okay, you survived one event. Thank goodness you got lucky. You know how many people who don't survive the first event? Mm-hmm. It's very sad. And now you have a second chance. And heart disease is preventable and even reversible with more significant changes. And if you don't make those changes, very likely that another event is going to happen. This is when you have their absolute undivided attention. They just survived a big event. They're stuck in the hospital. They have nothing else to do. And so the message is, this is a disease that has been developing over decades because of lifestyle. The treatment should be treating the cause of the problems. And of course, so ecstatic to say that both of them follow a nearly exclusively whole food plant-based diet to this day.
Both given a second chance at life. And with that second chance, an opportunity to share their story and spread the word about heart health.
They both changed their diet, they're exercising, they're doing great. We hope to use this to, inspire other people to learn CPR, eat healthy, and do all the right things, because prevention of heart disease is way more powerful than trying to fight heart disease after it happens.
Remarkably, these three men, Dr. Lohm and the two men who suffered heart attacks that day, all ran the Monterey Bay Half Marathon together the next year.
Michael and Greg were incredibly fortunate to have Dr. Stephen Lohm there to save their lives when they suffered their heart attacks. And they were perhaps equally fortunate that Dr. Lohm is a lifestyle medicine practitioner who could help inspire them to change their diets and optimize their heart health. By doing so, he might actually be saving each of their lives a second time by dramatically reducing their odds of ever suffering a heart attack again.
So true. There's a widespread belief today, including among many doctors. This belief is that age-related increases in heart attack risk and in blood pressure are simply inevitable consequences of aging. But that is not true. So, what is really making elevated blood pressure and heart disease so common today? The reality is that it's the constant and continual exposure to ultra-processed foods and to the high amounts of salt and animal products. And lifestyle factors like smoking and stress and lack of exercise play a huge part too.
You'll find that the vast majority of cardiologists out there don't find high blood pressure particularly an enthralling topic. But the sad part is 50% of Americans have high blood pressure. And we usually define that as anything over 120 over 80. We usually don't start treating until it's 130 over 80, but many times 120 is what we're looking for. What most people don't realize is that high blood pressure, they call it the silent killer. And the reason is it's often clinically silent until it's almost too late. But when your blood pressure is real high for long enough, it's slowly causing damage to your brain, it's causing damage to your kidneys, it's causing blood vessel damage, which are the root causes for erectile dysfunction and other sexual dysfunctions. And so you can imagine that these things are slowly eroding away the health of someone. Heart disease is one of those things that kind of lurks in the background, and then all of a sudden it's too late.
Heart disease can indeed be a killer. And for many people, it sneaks up on them, and then, by the time they realize what's happening, it's too late. But for those who survive a heart attack, and for those who experience the heart disease of loved ones, it can be a wake-up call. And that was the case for Dr. Helen Powell-Stoddard.
Today, Dr. Powell-Stoddard runs a state-of-the-art clinic, Pain to Wellness Healthcare in Madison, Alabama. She uses her extensive medical knowledge and her experience to help people find freedom from pain and to live in greater health. After Dr. Stoddard experienced the death of her mother at a young age, she wanted to understand everything she could about heart disease. She wanted to understand its connection to the food that we eat.
My mom developed congestive heart failure. She had high blood pressure. And so what she ended up developing was a very thick heart muscle that was so hard and so thick that she had less blood inside of her heart. Which means if she had less blood inside of her heart because the chamber was just more narrow, because the walls of the heart were so thick, that meant that every time she pumped out blood, there was just a little bit of blood going out into all of the parts of the body that needed. And so I remember her congestive heart failure had worsened to the point where her ejection fraction, how much blood gets out with every pump of the heart, was about 10%. Wow. That was very, very difficult. You know, anything more than 65, 70%, you know, you don't get worried about. But my mom was pumping out 10%. I was young at the time. I didn't know. I was practicing. I was becoming a doctor, but I wasn't yet a doctor. And I didn't know. I knew that there was something inherently wrong with the foods that we were consuming when we were growing up. I remember just talking to when my mom would want something because, you know, people that have diseases, especially diet-exacerbated illnesses, really have those diet-exacerbated illnesses because of dietary choices. And so I remember her reaching for something, and I would say, no, don't let her have that, but I'm the 7th of 8 children, right? And they're like, why are you stopping her? Just let her have it. It's just a little of this. It's just a little of that. But what I came to realize much later in life is that that little something kept adding up. And that addition, those little things that kept adding one more thing and one more thing was what took my mother's life away.
During the 1960s, heart disease was on the rise in the U.S. What doctors commonly call coronary artery disease is usually caused by a condition of the arteries that supply the heart with blood. What happens is that over time, a fatty substance in the bloodstream called cholesterol builds up in the coronary arteries, restricting the blood flow to the heart. This can ultimately cause several problems, from severe chest pain called angina to heart attacks.
Let's talk about one of the most important and controversial heart health topics, which is saturated fat. In the last few years, we've been hearing a lot about studies that are said to exonerate saturated fat.
Yes, we have. And probably the most frequently cited among those studies was published in the Annals of Internal Medicine in 2014. That and other studies like it have become the basis for many health authorities now telling us that there's no connection between saturated fat consumption and risk of heart disease.
So what's going on here? Are these studies right?
Well, I've looked very carefully at these studies, and they aren't saying what some people are saying they're saying. What these studies actually show is that when people reduce their intake of saturated fat and replace those calories in their diet with refined carbohydrates and sugar, there's no advantage at all. They don't lower their heart disease rates or anything else. So there is no benefit to eating less saturated fat if it means that instead you're eating more sugar and other refined carbs. But that doesn't mean that butter and meat and cheese belong in a healthy diet. What we are actually learning is that sugar and refined carbs, as well as saturated fat, need to be minimized in any diet designed for optimal health. And there's something else that these studies are actually telling us. When people reduce their intake of saturated fat and replace those calories in their diet with either healthier fats or with healthier foods in general, they do have much lower rates of heart disease, of type 2 diabetes, of obesity, and they do benefit from many other positive health outcomes.
Yes, so when the question is asked, which is to blame for heart disease, sugar or saturated fat, the answer is both.
Probably two dietary factors fuel heart disease more than any other in terms of the scientific focus since the 1950s and 1960s. Two important dietary factors. One is the amount of saturated fat in the diet, and this gets so sciencey and technical people tune out because we've got omega-3 fats and monounsaturated fats and polyunsaturated fats. But basically, saturated fat, all we got to talk about is animal foods and coconut oil. You like cheese, you like bacon, you like red meat, you like egg yolk, you're getting a lot of saturated fat. And if you like coconut oil, you're getting a lot of saturated fat. And hundreds of studies suggest when you have a high amount of saturated fat in your diet, you will raise your blood cholesterol level. Some of us are more sensitive to that. Some of us a little less sensitive. Some people are called hyperabsorbers. Put some cheese and egg yolk in their gut and your cholesterol will rocket. It'll double in a few weeks if you keep that up. Other people are a little less sensitive to it. And that will promote, not in a day, but over weeks, months, and years, that hardening, that calcification, that heart attack and death risk. The science is strong. Every health organization worth their weight in arugula suggests you lower and minimize your saturated fat intake. And the second one is added sugar. And this has been a big debate over the years. Which one is worse? Well, they're both worse. And we live in a society, we've got added sugar, obviously, in our drinks, and we have it in our sweets, and we have it in our barbecue sauces, and we have it in our ketchup. And there's no doubt it might be a little less direct. The added sugar, you gain some weight, you become more insulin resistant, your triglycerides go up, your cholesterol goes up, you have some inflammation going on. So being sensitive. And the joy is when you eat a close to nature, whole food, plant-based diet, you're going to have a naturally low saturated fat diet, and you're going to have a naturally low added sugar diet.
So if you look through time, and all of the various research that's been done over the years, whether it's the portfolio diet, the DASH diet, dietary approaches to stopping hypertension, Mediterranean diet, and a whole variety of others, including there's a Lancet diet, some of the Blue Zone diets, what do they share? They're all low-fat, minimally processed, plant-based diets. That, to me, is the magic bullet for virtually every disease. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to eat a bunch of carrots and cure your whatever. But if you eat that way for long enough, you have a very good shot at reversing or halting, at the very minimum, disease progression. I think in general, the vast majority of expert consensus would tell you that saturated fats are not so good. So we should really get rid of them and try to remove them. And you can even get saturated fats from things that are plants like coconuts and other things. So really try to reduce those. And then I usually tell people to limit fats. For some patients who are very high risk, I actually will advise them to limit it altogether, get rid of it if they can.
When we look at large-scale studies, we see consistently the consumption of red meat and processed red meat are the number one assailants. They're top one in terms of like killers that are out there. But we also see from a standpoint of inflammation, which is an area of concern, and dyslipidemia, that chicken and turkey and white meats can also trigger the same process that's there. We're learning so much more about this.
Sugar, refined grains, animal foods, especially processed meats and higher fat animal-based foods, but even the low-fat animal-based foods, which is a huge misconception in our culture that chicken and fish and low-fat dairy products are actually good for you. There's plenty of evidence, scientific evidence in major journals that show that even those lean meats can cause endothelial injury and inflammation. They can elevate C-reactive protein, which is one of our inflammatory markers that we look at. And that's why the more you get definitely the processed foods and also the animal-based foods completely out of your diet, the better you're going to be in both your LDL cholesterol number and protecting your arteries from damage and inflammation. And look at those blue zones, which are nearly 100% whole food, plant-based from the day they were born. And that's why heart disease essentially doesn't exist when people truly follow that pattern from early in life.
And that's where I think lifestyle intervention really is powerful because, people will tell you there's only two ways to learn, right? One's through pleasure, one's through pain. And heart attack, pretty painful. And if we can get people to make a massive change from that point forward, can we make them much less likely to have a heart attack? And the answer is yes.
A Harvard doctor once told me, if food was medicine, I would have learned about it in medical school. With attitudes like that, it is remarkable to me that any doctors are able to break free from the pill for every ill conditioning.
Fortunately, more and more are. Let's hear next from Dr. Neil Cooper, a physician who got into lifestyle medicine because of what happened to his own health.
I was practicing basic standard American medicine, but when I was 56 years old, back in 2012, after working out one morning, early in the morning, and getting ready for a day of work, after the workout, I was having some of the worst indigestion or reflux I thought I've ever had. And the pain in my chest was so great, I had to sit down on the ground every time it came on. I made it to the pre-op area that morning and was getting ready for a full day of performing procedures with patients. And as I was talking to the nurse that day, the nurse looked at me and said, "You look terrible, Dr. Cooper. You should go home or go see somebody." And I said, "I'll check with somebody in a little bit." And right then and there, I dropped to the ground, clutching my chest, had 11 out of 10 chest pain. I couldn't speak and could barely catch my breath, so I was in the middle of a heart attack. And as you know, heart disease is the number one killer in this country. But I was so very fortunate to be inside of a healthcare facility at the time of my heart attack. At that point, I was rushed to the cardiac cath lab. The cardiologist put a catheter into my widowmaker artery in the heart and opened it up, put some stents in there, and saved my life that day. Had I had that heart attack somewhere else, I would have been dead.
So then you wake up from the operation and you've got stents and you got a new lease on life. What happened then?
Yeah, so I did what any other good patient would do. I worked very closely with my cardiologist to optimize the new 6 medications that I was going to be on. I went to all of my cardiac rehab appointments and took all sorts of tests to find out the status of my heart, what kind of damage I had, and what my prognosis was. I was just going to, do what standard medicine dictated at the time. However, I have to say that my wife was studying other information, and she was reading books by Caldwell Esselstyn, Joel Fuhrman, Neil Barnard, and she quickly learned that we needed to move to a whole food, plant-based diet for my health. And we transitioned from that Sunday afternoon to a whole food, plant-based diet till today. And it's been the best journey of my life.
So what happened to your, any lab results or your experience of life as you made that shift?
So we made that shift abruptly. We didn't baby step into it. We made a 100% transition. And I would say within by the 3rd or 4th week, I already was feeling so much different. I was sleeping much better already. I had so much more energy. And very quickly, all of my biometrics normalized. I began within the first month losing weight. And within months later, I was off all my medications and have no evidence of any residual heart disease.
And how is your health now?
My health now, honestly, is better than it was when I was much younger, 11, 12, 13, 14 years ago. So much more energy. I feel so much healthier, no medications, and the journey has been absolutely fantastic.
So you were a doctor practicing medicine, and this was new to you.
When I found out this information, I was so excited, but I was also angry at the time. Because how is it that I went through my whole medical career and I was on cutting edge medicine, putting catheters inside people's arteries, and how come I didn't know this? So I was angered by it, and it became a mission to educate myself, my patients, and particularly the medical group that I was in at the time at Kaiser Permanente. The future is absolutely learning more about lifestyle medicine and whole food plant-based diet in particular. And I'm very encouraged that although we don't get any nutrition training at all, I'm very encouraged to see the new medical students. I talk to groups of medical students, and I believe that they really get it. And I'm really encouraged that in the next generation or two, we will see whole foods as our primary treatment and medications as our secondary treatment.
Fortunately, you don't have to wait a generation or two until Western medicine fully grasps that whole foods should be our primary approach, both to treating and to preventing heart disease. You can put this information into practice in your own life now.
Yes. And there's no question that elevated blood cholesterol levels are one of the major risk factors for heart disease. But there have been a lot of questions and controversy about the connection, if any, between the cholesterol that we eat in our diets and the level of cholesterol in our bloodstream. So, what's the truth about dietary cholesterol?
Dietary cholesterol has been a huge controversy, and one of the important teaching points for our audience here is the amount of saturated fat that the average American, as an example, eats is tremendously more than the amount of dietary cholesterol they eat. You know, an egg may have 200, 250 milligrams of cholesterol. Somebody told me that a toothpick weighs about 100 milligrams. So think about 2 toothpicks worth of cholesterol from a egg yolk. But you eat a cheeseburger, a milkshake, and French fries, you're going to get tens and tens of grams of saturated fat. So relatively, dietary cholesterol is a small, important, but small factor compared to saturated fat. Now, in reality, animal foods combine cholesterol and saturated fat. They go together. The only example that doesn't is coconut oil. Coconut oil is very rich in saturated fat, but because it's from a plant, it doesn't have cholesterol. Cholesterol only comes from the animal world. So with the exception of coconut oil, these two things track together. High saturated fat diets are going to be high cholesterol diets almost always. You know, the latest USDA guidelines typically use language like lower dietary cholesterol to as low as possible. They don't put a number anymore, and that's created confusion. Now, a whole food plant-based diet, you know, it's essentially a zero cholesterol diet, which is a joy if you watch palm oil and coconut oil as main ingredients or additives. So we do want to pay attention to dietary cholesterol, and you know, every time you eat an apple and a bean salad, you can proudly say zero cholesterol in that meal.
If you have diabetes, you're twice as likely to have heart disease or a stroke compared to someone who doesn't have diabetes. And the longer you have diabetes, the more likely you are to develop heart disease. Why is that?
So diabetes is considered to be a cardiovascular or coronary artery disease risk equivalent. So when you have diabetes, you're automatically in a higher risk category. And the reason for that is that high blood sugar levels seem to be associated with inflammation, which also upsets the lining of the blood vessels and predisposes to heart attack and stroke. And there's really every study you'll ever look at that if you have diabetes, your risk for a heart attack or a stroke is high. Your risk for a lot of different cancers is high. Your risk for neuropathy is high. I mean, diabetes really robs people of their life, if you will.
The good news is that you can massively lower your risk for both heart disease and diabetes by eating a whole foods, plant-based diet.
Yes, you can. It's a stunning fact. We now know that a whole foods, plant-strong diet, along with a few other simple lifestyle practices like not smoking and getting regular exercise, can prevent more than 80% of all heart disease, can prevent more than 85% of all hypertension, and can prevent more than 90% of cases of type 2 diabetes. We're still learning about the many mechanisms by which it does that.
We know that meat consumption increases levels of a substance commonly referred to as TMAO. The more red meat someone eats, the more TMAO will be found in their blood and in their urine. So, what do you need to know about TMAO?
One of the most interesting new conversations in cardiology, advanced cardiology, is a molecule that goes by 4 letters, TMAO. It does stand for a chemical name, trimethylamine N oxide. Until 2011, this was in the science literature, but largely the science of fish, how do fish stay buoyant in deep, cold water where there's high pressure. And TMAO is a molecule found in some fish flesh that helps them stay alive under those extreme circumstances. But then the Cleveland Clinic published now thousands of papers around the world that they did a screen. What's in the blood that we don't know about that might be causing hardening of the arteries that we might want to focus on and learn about? And after their research, they found in both, unfortunately, animal models and then human blood, that TMAO is a molecule in our blood. They developed a blood test for it that is now available from labs. I draw it on all my patients, that your TMAO level goes above a normal range if your diet is particularly rich in egg yolk and red meat. I mean, this is a vegan cardiologist's dream research project, but it's authentic. And the researchers who are friends of mine at the Cleveland Clinic are not vegan. They weren't planning to destroy the meat and the egg yolk industry, but they did a pretty good job if you follow the science. And the higher your blood level, the higher the association of hardening of the arteries, scarring of kidneys and kidney disease, and almost any disease that's been studied. Dementia with a high TMAO, worse. Diabetes with a high TMAO, worse. Congestive heart failure with a high TMAO, worse. So it's a very powerful marker. And it may be more than a marker. There's some animal studies at least that show it literally causes hardening the arteries directly. So the hunt is on in the pharmaceutical industry and the academic world to find pills that will be patentable and will be TMAO blockers. And there will be some coming out. They're hot on that trail. But the joy, again, stop eating egg yolk, stop eating red meat. And there are some people that take vitamins that have carnitine and choline. If you take a big can of Monster energy drink, for example, you'll read on the label, it's very rich in carnitine. That can also bump your TMAO level up. So look at your vitamins, look at your energy drinks. Obviously, give up your energy drinks would be the advice. And it's a joy to check a TMAO level in a good, healthy eating vegan because it's going to be undetectable. And it's another way to interact with people, educate them about food, improve their outcome, and actually, prevent heart disease. That's what we're after. And it's blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, but now TMAO is another measurable factor to focus on.
Calcium is a very important mineral. We all know we need it for strong bones, and we need it for many other critical systems and tissues in our bodies as well.
Yeah, we want calcium in our bones, but where we don't want it is building up in our arteries. What is it that causes calcium to accumulate in our blood vessels instead of getting into our bones?
That is such a good question. Why it would deposit in your blood vessels. But we obviously calcium it's not just about building bones. Calcium, it really regulates so many body systems, and it's very important for the cardiovascular system. We need some, but to regulate every beat of our heart is dependent on calcium. And so we are going to have some calcium in our blood vessels, but we don't want an excessive buildup of calcium because that is what leads to, hardening of the arteries, if you will. I would imagine, if I'm to guess, inflammation is a factor there. And so when the endothelium is not healthy, we don't get enough nitric oxide, we have too much inflammation, that drives that process of, building up calcium deposits. And so again, it's eating a diet that's anti-inflammatory and that doesn't promote oxidative stress. I think those are probably keys.
The topic of calcium and calcifying your arteries is a very important topic and slightly confusing. It seems pretty clear that getting calcium from your diet, those are going to be plant-based foods, green leafies predominantly. Love your arugula and your bok choy and your romaine and any other spinach and the rest. Do not lead to calcification of heart arteries. In fact, they're anti-atherosclerosis. They're part of the solution. They're part of the prevention. But then you get this enormous industry driven by concerns about bone health and osteopenia and osteoporosis and fractured bones, where there's calcium supplements and there's low dose and high dose. And there have been a number of studies that suggest that if you're getting much close to 1,000 milligrams a day or over that of calcium oral supplements and vitamins, you may actually, these are association studies, but you may actually promote the calcification of your heart arteries. So in my clinic, if we have to supplement with calcium, which I don't often, it's going to be on the low side and it's going to be plant-based sources.
So a key is to get your calcium from plant sources and not overdo the supplements. All green veggies are great sources. In fact, dark green leafy vegetables are such outstanding sources of calcium that cooked kale has substantially more calcium per serving than milk does. This versatile leafy green also fights against heart disease, cancer, and inflammation. Eating a lot of veggies, and particularly the green ones, is a great way to take care of your blood vessels and your entire circulatory system.
Yes. You might find this hard to believe, but each of us actually has 50,000 miles of arteries coursing through our body and another 50,000 miles of veins. The blood vessels in your body cover a distance equal to nearly 4 times the circumference of the Earth.
That's an amazing thought. And it's critical that you have just the right amount of blood vessels, not too much and not too few. Your body is constantly creating new blood vessels and nurturing existing ones to ensure that it has all the nutrients it needs where they are needed. But it's also constantly cutting off blood flow to blood vessels and terminating them when they have fulfilled their purpose or if they are feeding cells that might have become cancerous.
Angiogenesis, angio, blood vessels, genesis is how they grow. This actually is the process by which our body grows blood vessels. It's also one of the hardwired defense systems in our body to ensure that the control of blood vessels, we don't have too many, we don't have too few, we have just the right amount to feed and nourish and oxygenate our cells and our organs. This is a really important concept to have just the right amount of blood vessels. Too few and our organs die, like heart after a heart attack, or brain after a stroke, or erectile dysfunction. Nerves have a problem in diabetes and other conditions, but actually it's the blood vessels that feeding the nerves that are also damaged as well. Nerves need circulation. Without circulation, they begin to die or malfunction as well. What we've discovered in our lab are anti-angiogenic foods that can actually help, on one hand, mow down extra blood vessels in cancer, which is the other side of the equation. Cancers form all the time. You and I both have cancers right here, right now, growing in our body because it's natural. We have little mutations that happen as our cells divide. In fact, 10,000 mistakes occur in our DNA every 24 hours. And those form microscopic cancers, which will generally never harm us because they're not fed by a blood supply. So anti-angiogenic foods, and to give you some good examples, tomatoes, soy, brassica vegetables, nuts and legumes, strawberries, pomegranate, red grapes, Brussels sprouts. These are just some examples of foods that have anti-angiogenic capabilities. On the other hand, you can actually grow blood vessels when you need them as well. And this is where barley, fruit peel, mushrooms, all actually able to help us support the blood vessels we need. So what we're really aiming for when it comes to angiogenesis is not too many, not too few, but just the right amount. Our body's hardwired health defenses know how to do that. But what we eat can help our body do it much better.
Dr. Lee mentioned brassica vegetables, and I want to be sure you know what he's referring to. These particular veggies confer enormous benefits when it comes to the health of your cardiovascular system. The brassica veggies are those in the cabbage family, and they include bok choy and broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and all kinds of cabbages and cauliflower and collard greens, kale, kohlrabi and mustard greens, rutabagas and arugula, radishes, and turnips.
Those are some really great foods to help keep your heart and your blood vessels healthy. What are some of the other foods that are especially helpful?
There are so many heart-healthy foods, and they're all going to be found in the plant world over and over. What comes to mind, for example, is One of the senior researchers happens to be vegan. Dr. David Jenkins, MD at University of Toronto, developed a dietary program 25 years ago, published in the Science, called the Portfolio Diet. I want to bring my cholesterol down and I want to use food. And he described in a research study, we're going to combine 4 food groups. We're going to get a lot of fiber in our diet, things like black beans, kidney beans, red beans. That's always a good choice. We're going to use a lot of oats. We're going to use soybean products like tofu, tempeh, and edamame, close to nature, maybe organic. And we're going to eat foods that provide what are called plant sterols, and particularly sunflower seeds and sesame seeds.
So when we're looking at dark green leafy vegetables rich in dietary nitrates, we're looking at Swiss chard, and we're looking at spinach and kale and mustard greens and collard greens and bok choy. These are extremely powerful. But I love beets. So a wide array of beets too as well are extremely important. Why? Because it's delivering that dietary nitrates that are there. Why that's important is they help to dilate the vessels too as well. So you're not only getting the fiber content that helps kind of wash away the cholesterol that's there, and you're eating cholesterol-free foods, that now you're also having foods that are enriching, plus a rich array of phytonutrients. So we're looking at those, we're looking at beans, superpower. Right? It gives you protein, gives you resistant carbohydrates too as well. It's the stuff that blue zones are made of, that we understand the power of beans really in terms of our body from that resistant carbohydrate and the fiber rich.
Greens and beans are both fabulous sources of fiber, but a lot of supplements, such as Metamucil, provide fiber. Is it a good idea to use supplements to help meet your fiber needs?
It's important to say fiber from food, for sure, not fiber from supplements, because I have a lot of patients that say, oh, my diet is very high in fiber. I have the Metamucil right here. I'm like, no. That's not what we're talking about. The fiber certainly will help because fiber is only found in plant-based foods. When people eat more fiber, more plant-based foods, their gut microbiome is much better. TMAO levels go down, which is something that can actually contribute to heart disease risk, especially when they cut out the animal-based foods when they're increasing their fiber. Does the fiber have a direct beneficial effect on anti-inflammatory or LDL? Maybe a little bit, but more, again, is thinking about the whole food. When you're eating fiber-rich food, you're eating whole plant foods, which come with all these phytonutrients, these anti-inflammatory, these nitrates, all these things that come with it. And so it's not always the fiber in the food, but the other things that come along with the fiber in those unprocessed plant-based foods that give the benefit. And similarly with beans, beans, good for your heart.
We hear a lot about the health-promoting value of exercise. And certainly exercise is super important for your heart health. But in the short term, if you don't have the right diet, exercise can also put strain on your heart. Dr. James Loomis is the former team internist for the St. Louis Rams football team and the St. Louis Cardinals baseball team. He explains how this works and what you can do about it.
When we perform exercise, we burn oxygen. And when we burn oxygen, it creates what's called oxidative stress. Now, a little bit of oxidative stress is good, right? So you go and you start exercising, the oxidative stress goes up, you send signal to your muscle, hey, I'm getting ready to damage you, so get ready to fix me, right? Now, the problem is too much oxidative stress can actually damage the muscles, and that's what causes the soreness. But what else does it damage? It can damage your DNA and increase your risk for cancer. It can damage the LDL cholesterol particles and increase risk for heart disease, right? And unfortunately, our bodies have a very limited ability to mitigate oxidative stress. The only way we can get extra antioxidant capacity is through our food. And the only place you find dietary antioxidants is in plants, because these antioxidants are actually those plants' natural defense mechanism. So they don't, like if you scar a tree, you don't want bugs and fungus and bacteria to get there. So we create, these plants create antioxidants to help that have this kind of healing property to help protect the plants. And so in general, the more color a plant has, the more antioxidant it is. So, when you're truly eating the rainbow every day, you just load up. It's like you can think of it like if you've got a low great burning fire in your body every day because you eat a pro-inflammatory diet, right? You're eating too much saturated fat. And then you go exercise. What are you doing? You're throwing gas on the fire, right? Yeah. Well, now all of a sudden, when you bathe yourself in these anti-inflammatory milieu, right? The antioxidants, the low ratio of omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids, which is also inflammatory. And now you go exercise, there's no fire to light.
Look at grains. That fiber-rich grains are extremely important. Having more color is extremely powerful. Red rice and bulgur and wheat and buckwheat and brown rice, all these things are extremely wonderful to the palate as you begin to eat it. Eating fruit, the berries are powerhouses. So blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, enrich in antioxidants. They help lower the blood pressure, improve the memory too as well, helping stave off diabetes. So we're seeing power in so many fronts as it relates to this heart-healthy diet that's focused on greens and beans, and accentuating that with the allium family, which includes onions and garlic because they decrease the stickiness of platelets, that are there, and adding mushrooms that are going to help with cancer too as well, adding seeds because we want antioxidants and omega-3s that are going to help with our memory and stave off Alzheimer's.
So I would say that fiber and whole grains help to bind cholesterol in the diet, which is always a plus, but they're also highly associated with good cardiovascular outcome. And the same is true for pulses or lentils or beans, whatever you want to call them. Americans do not eat pulses, lentils, or beans in general. Now, where I live in Colorado, we have a very large, either first or second generation Mexican population. We eat a little bit more beans than most other places, but by and large, these are superfoods that are super cheap, super great sources of protein, super great sources of carbohydrates that's complex, and yet often neglected by most people. And I would argue whole grains, when they're prepared well and they're fresh and they're amazing, but people don't realize that. And I always used to tell people that a great breakfast is a little cup of oatmeal made with water, not milk or butter like they do in some parts of the country, with berries on top. Mm-hmm. And it binds up cholesterol. It's good if you have loose stool. It's a win in every way.
We essentially have the cure for America's #1 killer. It's lifestyle. It's not a pill. It's not a drug or a stent or a bypass surgery. It's a lifestyle intervention.
I think what Dr. Lohm just said is really important. We have the cure for the world's #1 killer. We know how to prevent and even how to reverse most cases of heart disease. But the answer isn't a pill or a procedure. The answer is lifestyle. And that starts with eating a whole foods, plant-strong diet. It can be a plant-exclusive diet or a plant-predominant diet. But in most cases, it needs to be rich not just in fruits and veggies, but also in beans and seeds and nuts and whole grains so that you can get the entire rainbow of nutrients that your body needs to thrive.
Yes. And a healthy lifestyle also includes getting enough exercise, not smoking, getting enough sleep, having healthy relationships, and managing your stress.
So true, so true. Those are all really important. When most of the physicians who are practicing today went to medical school, they learned nothing about eating healthy. And they also learned nothing about the importance of sleep, nothing at all. In fact, studies have found that while medical residents are on duty in the hospital, they get an average of only 4 to 5 hours of sleep per night. And it's common for residents to joke about self-medicating while they drink gallons of coffee just to stay awake.
Not only can this level of sleep deprivation produce intense fatigue and poor judgment, it can also create physicians who have no understanding of the crucial role that good sleep plays in keeping you healthy.
When I trained in medical school, which is actually more than 40 years ago, we had maybe 30 minutes on sleep and 20 minutes on nutrition. Now sleep is the big topic. If you want to keep your arteries healthy, you work on your sleep. If you want to avoid obesity and type 2 diabetes, you work on your sleep. If you want to avoid high blood pressure, you work on your sleep.
It turns out the research suggests that 7 to 10 hours a night of uninterrupted sleep is the sweet spot for the least amount of heart disease. Now, it's hard to imagine because a lot of people are like, well, I get up every day at 3 o'clock in the morning and then 4 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the morning. These people are either stressed out or they have some sort of bladder or other problem that needs to be addressed. But you really want to get 7 hours a night, and a lot of people don't get that.
I find that I can do all right with 5 or 6 hours for a few nights, but then I need to catch up. Getting 7 hours a night might be challenging for some of us, but it's really important.
That's certainly true. Almost everyone knows that they feel better when they get enough sleep, but they might not realize how important sleep is for their health.
Yes, and pretty much everyone knows that smoking isn't healthy. But no discussion of health or cardiovascular disease would be complete without addressing this. because it's still a primary cause of preventable death for millions of people.
I think most people do know that smoking is bad for them. You know, that nicotine is as addictive as crack, in some cases more. It causes constriction, so it reduces blood flow to your skin, which makes you age, so you look 10 or 20 years older than you if you've been a heavy smoker, because the capillaries that supply blood to your skin begin to shrink. Your arteries in your heart, that's why smoking, people go, I get it why smoking causes lung cancer. Why does it cause heart disease? Because it causes the arteries in your heart to constrict, and that can cause a heart attack or chest pain or worse. It causes reduced blood flow to your sexual organs. So half of guys who smoke have erectile dysfunction, and 80% of guys when they're older who smoke have erectile dysfunction. So even though it's promoted as being so sexy, it really has the opposite effect.
Blood flow is important to every cell of your body. And when that blood flow is compromised, it can impair function in some critically important ways. In the following clip from the people who brought us the hit film Forks Over Knives, urologist Dr. Terry Mason explains one of the more personal ways that this affects our intimate lives.
The body is all connected. If you have vascular disease anywhere, you have it everywhere. Erectile dysfunction is actually the first clinical indicator of generalized cardiovascular disease. It's the canary in the coal mine, because inside the penis, you have the highest per cross-sectional area of endothelial cells. And endothelial cells are what are responsible for the initiation of increased blood flow to create an erection. And the diseases that damage the endothelial cells were diabetes, high blood pressure, elevated cholesterol, and things of that nature.
When you start eating this typical Western diet, and you've been slaughtering your endothelial cells, our blood flow, this is no longer like going over Teflon. It's like going over Velcro.
Guys associate being manly with eating meat. They exponentially want to show everybody how I am a man's man, I eat meat, and I'm a badass. But what they don't understand is that the first artery that goes on most males, the arteries to the penis, right? So these men that think they're so manly are also becoming impotent.
And women don't realize they have exactly the identical blood flow, same mechanism, except it's a lot smaller. You know, the clitoris is a miniature penis. It gets engorged with blood, with arousal. And if those arteries are blocked, nothing happens. It's your diet. It enhances sexual pleasure.
One of the most popular documentaries of all time is The Game Changers. And there's a scene in the Game Changers movie that was so impactful that most of the film crew changed to a plant-based diet after shooting it. A prominent urologist, Dr. Aaron Spitz, gave 3 elite college athletes a meat-based dinner. One of them got organic chicken, one got grass-fed beef, and the other got organic pork. The urologist then measured how many erections these athletes had and how hard and long-lasting their erections were while they slept that night. And then the next day, he gave them plant-based dinners and repeated the studies.
Take a look at the results. So Mason, I'm going to give you your results first. Let you take those out. Okay. The bigger the circumference, the harder the erection. And so you'll notice that that first circle, which is the meat meal, is not as big a circle, it's not as hard an erection as that second circle, the vegan meal. Now let's look at the second sheet. The second sheet is a accumulation of how many erections and for how long you had over the course of the night. So that first stubby graph is really, it's not the size of your penis.
I'm struggling.
It's not the size of your penis, it's how many minutes throughout the night you had erections.
Wow.
It turned out that these men averaged 300 to 500% more frequent erections during the night after a plant-based meal than after a meat-based meal. And these erections lasted on average 4 times longer, averaging 45 minutes compared to 11 minutes for the same men after eating the meat dinner.
All of this has real impact in the bedroom. But what's causing it? And why is food so significant?
When we talk about food for sexual function, we have to come back to the Nobel Prize award-winning nitric oxide topic. And there are foods that boost nitric oxide, and they're not the 65% of calories that Americans eat of processed junk food, whether they're through a carry-out window or they're picking up at the deli or wherever. They are, Green leafies promote nitric oxide production, produce better sexual health. They are beets rich in nitrates that produce nitric oxide and enhance sexual health. They are fruits and vegetables overall, slowly chewed, enjoyed in a family setting and social setting that will produce more nitric oxide. So the ticket to heart health is the ticket to sexual health, is the ticket to excellent brain health, and it all comes from a colorful plant-based plate.
So when we are consuming less health-promoting diets, it can lead to plaques within our blood vessels. And just like those plaques can contribute to high blood pressure and heart disease and strokes, those plaques can also affect the blood vessels that go into the sexual organs and can affect the ability of arousal and sexual pleasure that way. And so when we eat more health-promoting foods, we're actually helping our blood flow.
Sexual health is important for many reasons, and it turns out that it is something of a positive feedback loop. When you have blood flowing to all the areas of your body, it also helps you to more fully enjoy intimate experiences, which in turn has a whole host of benefits to your well-being.
So when it comes to sexual health, and I love this too because it's so not talked about, but there are some tremendous benefits. So one is just having that intimate experience is actually so helpful for our mental health. So, if you think about even just hugging, hugging that person that you love, it tends to boost those happy hormones in our brain. And it actually helps to be health promoting from that aspect. And so sexual intimacy is definitely very important. And on the other side of sexual intimacy, we actually see when that's impacted, it actually can lead to health conditions. So we know about male impotence. When they're having those issues, that can be a sign of heart disease because you need blood flow for that to occur. And so, sexual health is so important for boosting our mental health, but it's also a sign of our physical health too.
It's the emotional joy. It's the maybe hormone release, the oxytocin, the endorphins. It's the fact that you have to have pretty good cardiovascular status and you have to have good plumbing to be successful in the sexual world. And it's the same approach to preventing heart attacks and keeping those youthful, flexible arteries in the heart are going to encourage youthful, flexible arteries in the sexual department. There are data that of all the foods on the planet, eating fruit is most associated with maintaining good sexual health long term. So that apple that Eve picked and gave to Adam was the first relationship where a fruit mattered in a sexual relationship, and it still, according to good studies, is important too.
There is in Western medicine a great deal of concern about risk factors like high blood pressure, elevated cholesterol, smoking, and obesity, and deservedly so, because these are very often linked to serious disease. But an ever-increasing body of medical research is coming to the perhaps surprising conclusion that the quality of your relationships with other people is as important to your health as are these other indicators, which is why chronic loneliness now ranks as one of the most lethal risk factors determining who will die prematurely in modern industrialized nations.
Western medicine has an almost surreal ability to ignore emotional realities. I'm thinking about birthing practices that routinely separate mothers from their newborns. For example, putting them in nurseries rather than in their mother's arms. But sophisticated research has confirmed that we are social creatures to our core. Our sense of being in touch with others and feeling connected to them has enormous implications for our health and for our longevity.
Here's an example of this research. Researchers from Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland studied 10,000 married men. They found that those men who had elevated cholesterol, high blood pressure, and diabetes were more than 20 times as likely to develop angina during the next 5 years. But they were amazed to discover that those men who answered yes to the simple question, "Does your wife show you her love?" developed far less angina even when they had high levels of these risk factors.
The medical importance of intimacy and of having loving relationships with a spouse or a dear friend became overwhelmingly apparent to another set of researchers. They published their fascinating study in the British Medical Journal. For 7 years, the researchers followed 752 men. At the start of the study, these men had been given a medical exam during which they were asked about their emotional stress. The researchers asked these men if they were experiencing financial troubles, feeling insecure at work, defending a legal action, going through a divorce, or facing another enormously stressful challenge. They found that the men who were had more than triple the risk of dying during the 7 years following the initial exam. Being under these kinds of stresses at the beginning of the study turned out to be a stronger indicator of death within the ensuing 7 years than biomarkers like high blood pressure, high concentrations of blood triglycerides, or high cholesterol levels.
Okay, so serious stress breaks people down and can even kill them. That's really no surprise. But what does that have to do with loving connections?
Well, I think what made this study so remarkable was that for those men who said at the start of the study that they had a dependable web of intimacy, a spouse or close friends, there turned out to be no correlation whatsoever between high stress levels and death rate.
That is so powerful. I think the take-home message from studies like these is that loving connections and relationships have an extraordinary ability to diffuse the negative medical effects of stress.
And we have some understanding of the mechanism by which this happens. Certain hormones, including cortisol, adrenaline, and noradrenaline, are produced in your body when you're under stress. When these chemicals are secreted and are surging through your body, your immune cells are less able to perform their functions, and this can leave you more susceptible to disease. In this way, stress suppresses immune resistance.
There may be an evolutionary wisdom operating in this suppression in that energy is conserved, enabling your body to put a priority on handling an immediate emergency. In extreme instances, this could make the difference between life and death.
Absolutely. But if stress continues over time, your health inevitably suffers. Social support seems to neutralize the effects of stress by lowering the production of these stress hormones.
Modern research is now repeatedly finding something you might find surprising. Namely, that your connections with the significant people in your life, if those connections are positive and loving, can prevent stress-induced illness. In fact, they contribute greatly to your health and can add many years to your life.
It's a striking fact that mortality rates for all causes of death are consistently higher for divorced, single, and widowed people of all sexes and all ages. And this is why life insurance companies use people's marital status as one of the indicators for how long they project someone is likely to live.
But there certainly are toxic relationships that don't provide these health benefits. While good, intimate relationships are deeply supportive of health, it's also true that bad ones can cause considerable damage. Sometimes people's hearts ache with loneliness, even in the company of their spouse.
Yes. In an article published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, our research team found that marital discord dramatically increases the risk of cardiac death in women. The study found that women tripled their risk of recurrent heart trouble if they were involved in a stressful relationship. And this finding held even after researchers specifically factored out variables including age, exercise, estrogen status, smoking, cholesterol levels, education, and lots of other factors that might have otherwise altered the outcome of the study.
So, what is it about unhappy relationships and about loneliness that so undermines our health?
I wrote a book back in 1998 called Love and Survival that reviewed what were then hundreds, which are now tens of thousands of studies showing that when you're lonely and depressed, you're 3 to 10 times more likely to get sick and die prematurely than those who have a sense of love and connection and community. Loneliness is like smoking 15 cigarettes a day, to put it in context. Yeah. And so when people realize that these social isolation isn't just lonely, but it actually is affecting our health probably more than any other factor, both directly and indirectly through the behaviors that we make, then we can make different choices. That we can say, oh, the time that I spend with my friends and family is not a luxury that I do after I've done all the important stuff.
It turns out that people who have the most love and support actually have the best cardiovascular outcomes.
The human heart, the pump beating in your chest, doesn't actually look very much like a Valentine heart. But there is a definite connection between the quality of love in your life and the health of your physical heart.
Of course, Among the most important relationships of our lives are those with our parents. It's widely recognized that the way children are treated by their parents can have a huge impact on whether they become confident, joyful, and responsible people or grow up feeling insecure and frightened and dysfunctional. But we now also have a tremendous amount of research showing that how parents treat their children has real medical implications.
Yes, in fact, there was a truly remarkable long-term study conducted at Harvard University. It began in the early 1950s when researchers randomly chose 125 undergraduate students and asked them to rank their relationships with each of their parents on a 4-point scale as to the degree of their emotional closeness. The students checked a box indicating whether their relationship with their mother and then their father was either very close or warm and friendly or tolerant or strained and cold.
Okay, so now I'm curious, what did they do with that data?
Well, 35 years later, the researchers examined the medical histories of these volunteers and found that an astounding 91% of those who had rated their relationship with their mothers as either tolerant or strained and cold had, by the time they reached their late 50s, suffered serious medical crises. They had more than twice the risk of having serious diagnosed disease by that time compared to those who 35 years before had said that they had either a very close or a warm and friendly relationship with their mothers. And similarly, 82% of participants who had rated their relationships with their fathers as either tolerant or strained and cold had developed serious diseases by midlife. And even more telling, 100% of those who had reported that their relationships with both their parents were strained and cold had experienced serious medical problems by their late 50s.
Wow, these numbers are staggering. The researchers actually concluded that having had a difficult relationship with one's parents is as great a risk factor for major adult disease as smoking, obesity, and high blood pressure combined. Which is all the more reason, if you've had a difficult relationship with one or both of your parents, to do everything you can now to heal the damage you've experienced and to apply the food and lifestyle principles that we're talking about in this summit.
Yes, no matter where you come from or what you've been through, it's never too late to care more deeply for yourself and to invest in building a more loving and connected and healthy life.
Dr. Dean Ornish was the first clinician to offer documented proof that heart disease can not only be halted, but actually reversed by changing your diet and lifestyle. Participants in Dr. Ornish's programs do 4 key things. First, they eat a whole food, plant-strong diet. Second, they exercise appropriate to their level of fitness. Third, they learn how to better manage their stress. And fourthly, and very importantly, they connect with each other and talk about their problems and issues in a constructive way. Put very simply, the cornerstones are eat better, move more, stress less, and love more.
And this program has shown outstanding results. Participants have discontinued medications, they've lowered their blood pressure without drugs, their chest pain has disappeared, they feel more energetic and happy and calm. They lose weight while eating more, and blockages in their coronary arteries are greatly reduced.
Over the years, Dr. Ornish has published a long series of peer-reviewed studies in the most prestigious medical journals, demonstrating that most of the patients who follow his program are able to not just arrest, but actually reverse heart disease without surgery.
Patients in his programs typically see their angina decrease by more than 90% in the first few weeks. Blood flow to their heart improves in only a few weeks. After a year, even severely blocked coronary arteries become measurably less blocked. And after 5 years, there is even more reversal.
What makes all of this even more amazing is that heart patients who painstakingly follow the American Heart Association guidelines do not achieve anything remotely equivalent to these benefits. And that's one of the reasons that the Ornish diet has been ranked #1 for heart health by US News and World Report more than 10 times.
In 1977, 46 years ago, when I was a second-year medical student, I got interested in the whole idea of can lifestyle changes actually reverse heart disease? And at the time, I was learning how to do bypass surgery with Dr. Michael DeBakey, the heart surgeon who pretty much invented the operation. And, we'd cut people open, we'd bypass their clogged arteries, he'd tell them they were cured. And more often than not, they'd go home and do all the things that had caused the problem in the first place, eat junk food and smoke cigarettes and not manage stress, not exercise and be in unhappy relationships. And more often than not, the new bypasses would clog up and we'd cut them open again, sometimes multiple times. So for me, bypass surgery became a metaphor for an incomplete approach. We were literally bypassing the problem without also treating the underlying cause. And I wondered what would happen if we treated the cause and what were the causes. And so I went to these places that they had then called libraries, and they had these things called books, with real paper and journals and so on. And I got kind of obsessed by it because I found that in animals and dogs and cats and pigs and rabbits and monkeys, you could cause them to get heart disease if you put them on a typical American diet or made them smoke or didn't let them exercise or put them in isolation. But you could reverse it if you changed all those things. And so I thought, why should people be any different? And everybody said, oh no, people just are. At that time it was thought, once you had heart disease, the best you could do would be to slow down the rate at which you got worse, and that was all you could hope for.
Fortunately, we know better than that now. In time, the Ornish program would become the first lifestyle medicine program to be covered by Medicare and by the big insurance companies. And as powerful and as effective as the Ornish program is at preventing and even reversing heart disease, it's also been shown to be remarkably effective against many other forms of illness too.
Yes, it has. Do you remember Dr. Stephen Loam? He's the cardiologist who was running in the 2022 Monterey Bay Half Marathon and ended up saving not one but two runners' lives. And he then helped both of them to adopt a whole food, plant-powered diet. Well, it turns out that Dr. Loam hasn't always been as health conscious as he is today. In fact, the story of his and his family's healing journey is remarkable.
I was standard American diet from the day I was born with my whole family, and obesity ended up running in my family, although of course it relates to the food and lifestyle, not just the pure genetics. And my sister was 450 pounds. My parents reached 300 pounds each, were diabetic, and I reached 270. And eventually I did start to accumulate obesity-related diseases. And it really didn't hit me, just like most Americans, I had blinders on. I was eating what my culture said to eat, what tasted good, what was cheap and convenient. And it didn't hit me for a while, even throughout my medical training, because when I was trained at a big university in Chicago to be a cardiologist, food wasn't a part of the curriculum whatsoever. I learned essentially nothing about nutrition. So yeah, it hit me real hard from two angles, almost simultaneously. Back in 2014, I had been a cardiologist for about 4 years, and the obesity-related ailments just really started hitting me hard, and it coincided just absolutely perfectly with my frustrations practicing cardiology, pushing medication, which I quickly realized, patients don't like the medications, they cost money, they have side effects, and even if I prescribe them all the perfect medications according to our guidelines, they might not even take them, and they might still have a heart attack or stroke because the medicines weren't treating the cause of the underlying problem. And I was just thinking, I don't know if I can practice this type of cardiology for the rest of my career. It just wasn't very rewarding, and that's when the lifestyle medicine revelation hit, and it changed both my personal life dramatically, the life of my professional life and the way I practice medicine and the lives of my family. But then after randomly Netflix said watch Forks Over Knives, that's when the proper journey began. And I was able to lose all the weight, get down to my ideal body weight. My cholesterol numbers dropped dramatically. They were as high as 135, and my LDL dropped down to 47 without medications, which is insane. If I'd had my patients' LDLs down to 47, they would never need me, which would be great. Obviously, that's the goal. And it was just more energy. I slept better. My chronic back pain went away, which was debilitating. The acid reflux I had went away. My mental clarity was so much better. And then that mental clarity went straight to my clinical practice where I finally understood the main root cause of my patient's problems and how to best treat it. And so, yeah, obesity ran in my family. My sister did end up getting a weight loss surgery. She lost 300 pounds, but now she is nearly 100% whole food, plant-based. My mother, who was 300 pounds and diabetic, and she changed completely whole food, plant-based, lost more than 100 pounds, reversed her diabetes, got off her medications. And then my father, too, was right at the same time my dad, who was almost 300 pounds, actually over 300 pounds and type 2 diabetic, on a lot of medications. He'd had hip replacement surgery, and his hip was better, but then his knee gave out on him, and he just did not like the surgery and doctors, even though his son is a doctor. And he said, no, I'm not getting knee replacement surgery. And he was confined to a wheelchair. And I said, Dad, you have two choices. You sit in that wheelchair for the rest of your life, and you keep taking all these pills until you finally have your heart attack or stroke, and that's it. And you're not going to really enjoy life that much. You'll be in the hospital a lot. It won't be good. Or you change your diet and your lifestyle, and you fight through this. And oh my, he went 100% whole food, plant-based, oil-free, low-fat, lost more than 100 pounds, got off all his medications, and now his knee doesn't hurt him at all. And he walks more than 3 miles a day without ever having his knee replacement done and taking no medication for his knee pain. And so it's been amazing. My wife is super supportive. She's a family medicine physician, went 100% on the plant-based journey with me and all 6 of our kids following 100% plant-based as well. Yeah.
It's enough to make you think this stuff actually works.
It does. It works. It's amazing.
Yes, this stuff does work.
In the next episode, we'll be focusing on diabetes and weight loss and on what you can do to bring your body weight into alignment with your highest health potential.
Thank you so much for joining us. We wish you a happy and healthy and loving heart.
And we'll see you in the next episode. Let's do this. At Food Revolution Network, our mission is healthy, ethical, and sustainable food for everyone who eats. We want kids to learn about healthy food in school. We want doctors to learn how nutrition impacts health in medical school. We want the routine use of antibiotics banned from factory farms. We want a world where everyone, regardless of their ethnic or economic background, has knowledge of and access to healthy food for their family. We want a world in which heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, obesity, and diabetes are rare, and in which vibrant health is the status quo. We're spreading the word and standing for change. And with every empowerment package purchased, we make a donation to Trees for the Future, enabling them to plant an organic fruit or nut tree in a low-income community. Join this movement and support this mission. Thank you so much for sharing in that incredibly moving episode. To express your opinions on what you've been hearing and to find out what other people are saying, post and engage in the comments section on our broadcast page. Make sure you refresh those comments using the button provided there so you can see the most recent ones that have been submitted. Rose said, "This is so informative and empowering. My resolve to treat myself better and keeping me on the right track." Wonderful, Rose. I'm so glad that you are finding this empowering and helping it motivate you to get on the right track and treat yourself better. You're so worth it. Deborah said, "Good morning. I lost my first husband 14 years after he had a widowmaker attack. He refused to change his lifestyle. Now my current husband suffers from diabetes and dementia. We're trying to change our diet. I'm so thankful for this summit." Deborah, I'm so sorry that you've had to suffer through the loss of your first husband, and now your current husband is dealing with these challenges. We're sending so much love to both of you, and I'm so glad you are here, and I hope what you are learning will be helpful to you with all of the stresses that are on you now, and also to your husband as well. We're sending you lots of love. James said, I was born into a 5-generation family meatpacking business located in the meatpacking district of New York City. As a child, I watched many of my relatives die prematurely from heart disease. I grew up eating red meat 3 times a day. Not wanting to repeat my lethal family pattern, I joined a Dean Ornish heart disease reversal program in the year 2000 when I was 48 years old. Since then, I've lived according to the recommendations of the Ornish Lifestyle Program, a whole foods, plant-based diet, exercise, handling stress effectively, and perhaps most importantly, finding all the love I can give and receive. Now I'm healthy, and I've already lived well past the age of death of many relatives who stayed with the family meat-eating tradition. Lifestyle medicine is truly life-saving and life-optimizing. James, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm so glad that you have found this information and been able to apply it in your life, and that you are experiencing such tremendous benefits. Cindy said, Ocean, I'm really enjoying the summit. I know I will never retain everything. I have hereditary high cholesterol. In the past, it's reached 311. The only thing that's helped me is statins, which have their side effects. Even with statins, total cholesterol only goes down to around 200. I'll be 65 this year and believe the best chance for me is to try and incorporate a whole foods plant-based diet. It's hard since I live alone and don't like to spend much time cooking. I've been trying to add some tofu to my diet. Thanks again for this great summit. Well, Cindy, thank you so much for being here. And yes, it can be hard to learn new habits. Healthy eating is a skill. Like learning a language, like learning a musical instrument, like learning to drive, like any skill, it gets easier with practice. It can come to be almost on automatic pilot when you have the routines down. But developing that skill takes time, energy, and investment. And at Food Revolution Network, we have a lot of resources to support you. One of them is Real Superfoods. That's our latest cookbook, Everyday Ingredients to Elevate Your Health, which I put together with Nicole D'Andrea Russert, Food Revolution Network's lead dietitian and recipe developer. It's an amazing resource if you want to make healthy eating delicious. And we also have an ongoing membership community called Whole Life Club, where we give you consistent support, recipes, wisdom with leading experts, community of peers to support you on the journey. When you get an empowerment package, you also get an opportunity to join Whole Life Club with a 30-day completely free trial. And it's an amazing resource. We have over 10,000 members in there. For anybody who's looking to sustain and optimize healthy lifestyle long term, it's a great opportunity. And if you just stay on our email list, even if you don't get an empowerment package, we'll share other opportunities to join in the future. Gina said, there are so few resources I trust for reliable nutritional information. FRN has earned my trust. I appreciate your honesty in presenting what food science we know, what we do not know, all the options and variables, and tirelessly keeping up with studies. I feel confident with all your offerings and with recommending you to friends. I know that if I send someone to you, they will find a welcoming place with up-to-date and trustworthy information. Thank you for all you do. Gina, thank you for your appreciation and recognition of the work that we do. And also thank you for sharing our work with your friends and loved ones. It means a lot. And I'm especially happy to hear you say that you think that you know that people will find a welcoming place in FRN, because we work very hard, not just to share information and data and facts, but to welcome people, to be a space where everybody, regardless of what we've been through, what we're suffering with, where our struggles and dreams are, regardless of what our health status is or what challenges we're facing, where we can all have an opportunity to feel safe, welcomed, and supported in making the best possible choices going forward. Dana said, I have a calcium heart score of 415, but low cholesterol. My cardiologist has me on a statin to prevent a stroke or heart attack. I've been whole foods plant-based for 2 years and have lost and maintained a 20-pound weight loss. I'm 110 pounds and I do yoga and walk 3 miles daily at 63 years old. I'm off my blood pressure meds and all my markers are normal. My question is, do I really need to stay on a statin for life? Well, Dana, thank you for asking. And this is definitely something you'd want to address with a qualified healthcare professional because there's all kinds of specifics to your situation. You may want to try to get a consultation with a plant-based cardiologist like Dr. Joel Kahn or someone else who really understands the power of lifestyle medicine. If you go to plantrition.org, you can find a directory put out by the Plantrition Project of plant-based docs and also other health professionals. You may find somebody who could support you, who understands the specifics of your case as they dig into it, and who also understands the power of lifestyle medicine. I will say a coronary calcium score in excess of 400 does present some real challenges. Most of the medical profession currently believes that diet and lifestyle cannot clear up hardened arteries. But there is some real research to the contrary, saying that in some cases, coronary calcium scores can go down. It's wonderful that you are doing so many things well, because that can really drop your risk of heart disease no matter what your coronary calcium score is. Now, I can't tell you if you should be taking statins or not, given everything you said, but I can tell you it's possible that you won't need them, and either way, that your healthy diet and lifestyle can make a world of difference. Abby said, are kombucha and probiotics beneficial when your gut microbiome is optimized, or would it not even matter at that point because your diet's optimal and giving your gut everything it needs? Is it only beneficial to help certain conditions to strengthen a specific strain of bacteria alongside a proper diet? Well, Abby, thank you for your question. Even with an optimal diet and a well-balanced gut microbiome, fermented foods are probably still healthy, although they're less critical. If theoretically your bacterial balance is incredible and your gut microbiome is completely rocking it, then maybe just feeding the good guys is the key thing, and fermentation may not matter so much. However, for most of us, we can use a little extra help, and fermented foods can help provide some of that extra help. They help maintain a balance of diverse microbiota, particularly when they're wild fermented foods, which are like the sauerkrauts and kimchis, for example. Fermented foods like yogurts or plant yogurts or whatever generally have one inoculant, which is less diverse, and it's a little bit more like consuming a probiotic pill, which comes with pros and cons potentially. But fermented foods in general can be good for digestion, and there's research showing that they're healthy for immune function, may help to enhance mood. There's a lot of good reasons to enjoy fermented foods for most of us. A nutritious diet really does lay the groundwork, and those probiotics can be beneficial as well. As we explored in episode 3, the overall benefits of probiotic supplements may not be what we once believed. They can be helpful in some specific short-term situations, but the trouble with probiotic supplements, of course, is that you're getting a lot of one specific thing, and unless it's the exact thing you happen to need at that moment, you could be overwhelming your gut microbiome with certain things that you maybe even already have plenty of. So diversity is key. Fermented foods can help with that. Eating lots of fiber is the most key thing, however, because that's where you're creating the conditions where all the diversity of bacteria and microorganisms in there have what they need to thrive. Jill said, this summit could not have come at a better time for me. I just went to the doctor the day this started, and he prescribed anxiety meds, doubled my blood pressure medication, and is testing me to see if I have ADHD. The same day I started eating the Food Revolution way, and this morning I even reacquainted myself with my food processor and made your walnut pesto angel hair pasta. I'm eating it right now, and it tastes so good. I can't wait to share it with my 91-year-old mother, who's in rehab recovering from bleeding ulcers. We stopped giving her sugar for the most part based on the knowledge we got from you, and her cognition has improved. I also just got your cookbook yesterday. So excited to keep learning, and thank you. Well, Jill, how wonderful that you are here. Thank you for getting a copy of Real Superfoods. So excited. A lot of folks have been talking about getting it, and we're getting such wonderful responses. It's super heartwarming. And I'm really happy that your mom's cognition has improved already since she got off the sugar. and that you're experiencing results already in just a few days. This can happen, folks. Sometimes results are fast. Sometimes they take a little longer. It's not always instant. Sometimes it is. Either way, when you give your body the right fuel, so many things can get better. And Jill, I'm sorry that you're dealing with the challenges that you're facing. It sounds kind of scary. And I'm really glad that you're on this path. And I can't wait to hear how things develop and what your doctor thinks the next time you take a visit and you get some lab results after eating this way for a while. I hope you'll let us know. Kim said, every year I enjoy this summit, and being a health coach, I'm excited to pass on all the new information I learn. This year I'm listening with a different perspective because I lost 2 dear people in my life a few months ago. I appreciate more than ever knowing how important brain health is, and also knowing that we can never take our health for granted. Unfortunately, with my work schedule, I missed the episode on the brain and the gut and was hoping there might be a replay sometime. Thank you for all the work you've done over the years to bring such important information to the world, and have done so in a most compassionate way. Well, Kim, thank you so much for being a part of this journey with us. We are so glad you are here. And I'm so happy that you're a health coach, so you can share this information with others. We want to make it a little easier for you to do so. So we're going to gift you with an empowerment package. So now you will have the replays of all of the Summit for Life, all the recordings and the transcripts, including source links to studies that are cited by the experts and by throughout the Summit episodes. And you'll have the extended interviews. So as you move forward as a health coach, you will have this wisdom to share with your patients, with your clients, and I know you will put it to good use. Congratulations and enjoy. Our team will follow up with you. Please check your Facebook messages so you can see when we contact you how to follow up from there. Glenda said, I'm a 70-plus-year-old woman, overweight with various issues such as diabetes. Right now, I'm wondering why my hands are so dry they feel like parchment. Nothing I put on them seems to help. I'm wondering if it is my diet, whether I am not eating enough of a specific food type. Well, Glenda, thanks for reaching out with your question. There could be a few reasons why you are experiencing dry skin. Some medications have the potential to inhibit the absorption of some of the key nutrients that are really important for healthy and well-nourished skin. Luckily, there are a few things you can do to help with dryness and improve the health of your skin overall with food. We talked about some of this yesterday, of course, but just to recap, a colorful, whole foods, plant-based diet provides critical nutrients for skin health. And thanks to the abundance of nutrients like vitamin C and vitamin A and vitamin E and iron and zinc and essential amino acids that come with plant-based proteins, you can get lots of wonderful nutrition from a whole foods, plant-based diet. It is important to get enough of all these nutrients and also omega-3 fatty acids, which are particularly high in chia seeds and flax seeds and walnuts, if you want to promote healthy skin and hair and nails. You also want to make sure you're hydrating well throughout the day by drinking plenty of water, natural herbal teas, and also hydrating fruits and veggies. Topically, the use of nourishing oils and seed butter like mango butter or shea butter or coconut oil can hydrate and nourish the skin while protecting the skin barrier. And if you want to find safe, non-toxic skincare products, take a look at Environmental Working Group's Skin Deep database for the approved list of products to help keep your skin hydrated. You can find that at ewg.org/skin deep. Again, that's ewg.org/skin deep. Bonnie said, I've been eating plant-based diet for 15 years. I really like the different foods that can be made. I have good relationships, walk 3 miles most every day, and don't smoke. I'm still trying to find out why my blood pressure continues to be high. Well, Bonnie, thank you for asking. First of all, you're doing a lot of things well, which sounds great, and congratulations to you. And you've still got high blood pressure. Well, the first place I would look is, are you consuming coconut oil or other saturated fats like palm oil? Because a lot of people who are eating a plant-based diet still are eating some processed foods that deliver saturated fats in those forms. And it is remarkable how often getting off the coconut oil is the missing link in the chain that makes it all come together for people who are doing a lot of other things well. So I would encourage you to give it a try. If you want to go a step further, try a month on a pristine diet. Now, I'm not recommending this necessarily for everybody, but if you're dealing with an ongoing cardiovascular concern and you've already gone whole foods, plant-based essentially, try doing it perfect for a month. And what do I mean by perfect? I mean, try going with no bottled oils. Try going with all whole foods, 100% plant-based. And when I say all whole foods, I mean skip flours and bread products, skip added sugars, and eat legumes, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. Make sure you're getting chia and flax seeds ground up in there in the mix. You can add spices, maybe add a little bit of salt, but keep it low since you're talking about blood pressure. If you try that for a month, check your blood pressure again and see how it's changed. If you've gotten big reduction, then that's pretty awesome. Congratulations. And then you could test out adding certain things back item by item and see how things develop from there. But you may find that that makes a world of difference. It's worth a try. Treating food as medicine. It can be a whole lot more pleasant than a lot of the medicines out there, and all the side effects are good ones. Lisa said, thank you for all this great info today. I'm trying to help my partner with his heart health, and I'm wondering, is it worth eating the kale if he uses grapeseed oil to saute it? He doesn't like other oils in cooking vegetables, so I'm wondering if this choice is fairly healthy. Well, Lisa, thank you for asking. Kale's awesome. Kale is super, super healthy. So are all of the other foods in the same family, like collards and cabbage and mustard greens. Super, super healthy. So eating kale's great. Sauteing it in a bit of grapeseed oil sounds fine to me. Sure, would olive oil be healthier? Probably. Or avocado oil? Probably. But grapeseed oil is okay because you're getting it with kale. Don't make the perfect the enemy of the good. And there is the old saying, a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. Now that said, when you're cooking, you may choose to saute in water or broth or olive oil, or try preparing your kale in other ways like steaming it so you get away from the oil altogether. Grapeseed oil is high in omega-6 fatty acids, which can be pro-inflammatory. You generally want to get those down. But again, enjoy your kale. Rachel said, good morning, Ocean. Day 5. So excited I made it all these days. Thank you for sharing such life-saving information. I've started on my journey to a lifelong transformation. I've had rheumatoid arthritis for about 7 years now. I'm only 59 and could never understand why I'd end up with this terrible disease. Now, with all your wonderful knowledge, I've learned how to reverse this, and now I know it's in my control. I really needed all this. Thank you so much for being so kind and generous. Have a wonderful day. Well, Rachel, thank you for being here. I hope you are having a wonderful day as well. I want to talk for a moment about rheumatoid arthritis because it's something that is impacting millions of people around the world, and food has an immense impact. So a lot of fruits and vegetables can be protective against the development of rheumatoid arthritis, or can be helpful in reducing symptoms for people who are already suffering from it. Now, specifically, a higher intake of certain carotenoids from fresh produce, as well as foods that contain beta-cryptoxanthin. Let me say this again. Beta-cryptoxanthin from citrus and zeaxanthin from leafy greens have been linked to lower rates of rheumatoid arthritis. One study involving more than 25,000 people found that the people who ate the most carotenoids had half the risk of developing inflammatory polyarthritis compared with the people who ate the least. Now, foods that are high in carotenoids include bell peppers and broccoli, cantaloupe, avocado, corn, kale, making another appearance here, spinach, summer squash, and pumpkin. Now, several studies have found improvements in rheumatoid arthritis symptoms like joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and limitation in function with diets that were low in arachidonic acid, which is an omega-6 fatty acid that's mainly found in animal products. In addition, a reduction in animal protein is linked to lower inflammatory markers and increased insulin sensitivity. So by replacing animal products with low inflammatory nutrient-rich plant foods, you can be fueling your body with what it needs to heal. Deborah said, I'm so thankful for this summit. I recently lost my brother to a disease that could have been prevented by lifestyle change with a plant-based diet. We funeralize him on May 15th. I've changed to plant-based myself, and I'm feeling so much better, and I've committed to teach as many people as possible. As a senior on limited funds, I'm praying that God will make a way for me to purchase the summit package so I can use it as a tool to teach others, especially other seniors, to extend their quality of life, and to young people and their parents to get them on track to better health. I promised God that if he helps me get better by using this information, I will teach everyone I can for the rest of my life. Thank you again for this vital information. May God continue to bless you and your family as you continue to change the health of the human race on this planet. Well, Deborah, I'm so sorry for the loss of your brother, and we're sending so much love to you, and sorry for the challenges you're facing. And I hear your prayer, and I join you in it. And we want to make it easier for you. So we're going to gift you with an empowerment package. You will own it for life, and I hope it will support you on your healing journey. And I know that you will pay it forward. And as you implement what you're learning, you will reap the benefits and share them with others. Bless you. Bless you every step of the way. Our team will follow up with you, and congratulations. You'll now own all the recordings and transcripts for life, plus all the expert interviews, so you can dive deep into the specific topics you want to go further with. Nadine said, John and Ocean, this series and you both are amazing, inspirational, and so needed. Thank you. I'm a general practitioner and a mom who's recently returned to practice after a long break, caring for my youngest complex needs child. Going back to work, I've had to relearn things and upskill myself, and last year I was also introduced to a whole foods plant-based lifestyle. It's been and continues to be amazing, but a challenging journey for so many reasons. She said, I'm directing many to your FRN. In my work, there are so many needy, unwell, and elderly patients who are struggling with multiple comorbidities and polypharmacy, and as you time and again point out, are not really getting any better. This series has so excited and re-inspired me to try to keep learning more so I can be a better healthcare provider, carer, and person living on this planet and actually making a difference. Thank you again from all of us. Well, Nadine, thank you and welcome back into your practice, and thank you for being there as a beacon of health and hope and knowledge to your patients. We want to make it easier for you to spread the word to your patients and also to care for your child. So we're going to gift you with an empowerment package. You'll own it all for life. Congratulations. I know you will put it to good use. Our team will follow up with you via Facebook Messenger. And congratulations also, and thank you also to all of our most recent new empowerment package owners, including Michelle from Virginia, Beat from Norway, Cindy from Nebraska, Matilda from Dominican Republic, Andreas from Switzerland, Thomas from California, Helder from France, Sarah from Australia, Julie from the UK, Joy from Arizona, Marion from Spain, John from Australia, Aura from Maryland, Terry from Massachusetts. Thank you all so much for investing in your health and in our mission with your empowerment package purchases. It really does make a difference. Now, I want to introduce to you our extended interviews of the day. Every day of the summit, we dive deep with 3 of the experts in the summit. And if you're learning about topics that you want to go further with and understand more about, these are an incredible resource. Of course, you have them all for life, all 45 of them with an empowerment package. But for free every day of the summit, as soon as we finish our day's broadcasts, we release 3 more of them on replay for the rest of the day and until the next broadcast begins. Today's extended expert interviews are with Andrew Freeman on taking charge of your heart, how to prevent and reverse cardiovascular disease progression. And number 2 is with Dr. Columbus Batiste on being selfish, which is an acronym, a cure for a stressed and broken heart. Number 3 with Dr. Joel Kahn on Beyond Cholesterol, the truth about supplements, fats, and modern food myths. Dr. Freeman, Dr. Batiste, and Dr. Kahn are all cardiologists. They're all brilliant, and I hope you enjoy their interviews today. And we also today have 3 more recipes of the day from FRN's brilliant recipe developer and registered dietitian nutritionist team. Nicole D'Andrea Russert, and Rosie McKay. Today we have toasted seed slaw. You can enjoy the healthy, heart-boosting benefits of this slaw, which is crunchy, aromatic, and infused with spices like cumin seed, celery seed, and coriander seed. It's a delicious defense against cardiovascular disease and a delight for your palate. Secondly, today we have spinach artichoke burgers. The spinach artichoke burgers are a heart-friendly feast that bring the zesty flavors of your favorite dip to a nutritious plant-based burger. Loaded with garlic, spinach, artichokes, and a kick of jalapeno if you like a little spice, plus a mix of sunflower seeds and rolled oats and white beans. These burgers pack a delicious punch of flavor and an abundance of fiber and protein, and they are also today's recipe demo video. Nicole takes you inside of her kitchen and shows you exactly how she makes them. These recipe demo videos are fantastic and loaded with bonus nuggets of wisdom from Nicole. And lastly, today we have sweet cherry cobbler. A sweet cherry cobbler that's as good for your heart as it is for your soul. Yes, indeed. It's made with wholesome ingredients like antioxidant-rich cherries, fiber-filled oats, potassium-packed bananas, and plant-based milk, and then sweetened naturally with maple syrup. This dessert comes together in minutes, and it's even a comforting hug in a bowl. It will nourish your heart and lift your spirits with every delicious spoonful. So glad that we have these recipes and that so many of you are cooking along with us as we go through this summit. Really, this isn't just about knowledge in your brain, it's also about foods you can eat and enjoy. And that's one of the things I love about working with Nicole and Rosie, is how they make the food revolution not just nourishing, but also delicious. Alice said, Ocean and John, I'm on a plant-based diet for 7 years and I feel amazing internally. But the only issue is I'm struggling with gum bleeding. I don't really trust dentists. What can I do to heal my gums and prevent this problem? Well, Alice, thank you for asking. I understand your concern about dentists, and you may want to ask around with family, friends, or community for referrals because dentists can be very helpful in their niche. I wouldn't ask most dentists for advice on nutrition, just like I wouldn't ask most doctors for advice on nutrition because it's not what they're trained in. But there can be a place for value there. And let me talk a little bit about oral hygiene for a moment. It's important no matter what you eat. You want to brush your teeth, you want to floss. I'm sure you already know that, but a lot of people know it and don't necessarily do it thoughtfully and intentionally. Pay attention when you're brushing your teeth. Make sure you're getting them well. A lot of people with gum issues find that a water pick can be super helpful for improving gum health. I myself had some gum recession and inflammation on a consistent basis. I started using a water pick and boom, that's been a critical part of helping clean that up. Other lifestyle factors that affect oral hygiene include smoking and stress and diet, and mouth breathing can often be an issue. Turns out that saliva is really good for your teeth, and when you're mouth breathing, especially at night, it gets dried out. Not everyone can breathe through their nose, but if you can train yourself to do so, that could be helpful. Now, some of the foods that may help with gum health include foods that are rich in vitamin C. There's a lot of research showing that inadequate vitamin C can lead to bleeding gums. So some of your top sources of C are going to be the obvious ones like oranges and other citrus fruits, but also foods like bell peppers, especially red peppers, tomatoes, squash, and strawberries. There's also some cruciferous veggies that are high in vitamin C, especially broccoli, but also cabbage and kale. There's kale again, and cauliflower. There's also potatoes. Kiwi is loaded with vitamin C. Blueberries and cherries are good sources as well. Another nutrient that's key for gum health is vitamin K. Now, a lot of the foods that are rich in vitamin C are also high in K, like kale. I'm wondering if we should have a ding every time kale pops up today. And also cabbage and broccoli and Brussels sprouts and more. Also, leafy greens can be great. So those are a few tips that I hope are helpful. You also want to limit alcohol and sugar and acidic foods to help minimize cavities and prevent enamel corrosion. So those are some thoughts. And last but not least, you may want to rinse with water after eating. I'm talking about oral health in general. Some of this is important for your teeth overall. Some of it may also be helpful with your gum issue in particular. And another key thing I will just underline again is flossing. Super helpful for gum bleeding issues because flossing and the water pick can help toughen your gums up, which will make them bleed less, most likely. Christine said, "Good morning. After 2 days, I am clearer mentally and feel so much more energetic with less pain. Thank you, thank you, thank you." Wonderful, Christine. Just 2 days. Feeling clearer, more energetic, and less pain. One of the things that can bring down pain is reducing inflammation in the body, and that can happen pretty fast. When you stop eating pro-inflammatory foods and eat anti-inflammatory foods, that inflammation can start to come down. That can often, for many people, lead to less pain. And yes, more mental clarity and more energy. This happens. Congratulations. Stick with it. Lisa said, "I'm excited for today. My husband is at home recovering from a triple bypass. Needless to say, we're on a journey to health and wellness. The discovery of FRN and this summit is no coincidence. It came into my life at just the right time." Lisa, yes, indeed. So glad you are with us. So much love to you and your husband. Yes, you're in the right place. Bless you every step of the way on your healing journey. Carol said, "I think I need to just keep replaying the Food Revolution Summit every day until next year, as it sure makes it easier and more encouraging to stay on track and making those choices. You're so wise, compassionate, and encouraging." Oh, Carol, thank you so much. And yes, thank you for being here. And you know, we do have a lot of folks who do exactly what you're saying, and they replay the summit every day. I have one friend of mine who actually listens to the extended interviews every night before bed. She listens to another one, not to fall asleep, I hope, but she does listen on long drives. She listens every day on the way to work and back. And she says she loves just saturating yourself with this wisdom. And gosh, with 45 extended interviews and all of the episodes, there's plenty of opportunities to listen again and again. She doesn't, by the way, watch the videos on drives, but she listens to the MP3s. With an empowerment package, you get the recordings as well, so you can stream the audio while driving. Please don't watch videos while driving. But it's so lovely that we can absorb this wisdom, and it just keeps it getting deeper, and you learn new things. I swear, every time you listen or watch, you will learn more, and you can share it with friends as well. So that's not a bad idea at all. And of course, with the empowerment package, you can own it all for life and listen again and again and again. Or you can hone in on the specific topics that are relevant at different stages of your life. I mean, if somebody you love gets diagnosed with heart disease, or is it at risk with, LDL cholesterol that's elevated or high blood pressure, you're going to want to be able to share today's episode with them, right? If somebody you love is struggling with digestive problems, you're probably going to want to talk about episode 3. If they're dealing with brain health concerns or skin health concerns, then episode 2 or episode 4 may come to mind. And by the way, tomorrow we're going to focus on diabesity. How many people are struggling with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes or excess weight? A lot of people. Well, tomorrow's episode is going to rock your world. So the opportunity to own this and share it and have it on hand for a moment when you need it can be so powerful. And that's one of the reasons why I think the empowerment package makes so much sense for so many people. So here we are, folks, approaching the end of day 5 of the Food Revolution Summit docuseries. And I want to thank y'all so much for everybody who's posting and engaging in the comment section on the broadcast page. Make sure to go there and check out what other folks are saying, and go ahead and click the button there to refresh the comments so you can see the most recent ones that have been submitted. Let's keep this conversation going and this community building. And by the way, if you scroll back through the comments from earlier in the day and previous days, you will see responses from a lot of FRN's team members, including links to articles and studies and research and support that may be useful. So it's another way to deepen your learning. Come on back and join us tomorrow, and we're going to go live at 7:45 Pacific time, 10:45 Eastern, 2:45 p.m. GMT, or at 11 Eastern when we start rolling episode 6. Our focus will be Diabesity Unmasked, the truth about weight loss, diabetes, and food freedom. We're going to look at how it is that so many of us are struggling with food addiction, with not really being the authors of our food lives, at what really drives excess weight, at what really drives type 2 diabetes, and what actually works to claim food freedom, to create balanced blood sugar, and to create a more thriving and healthy life. In the meanwhile, you can post your comments and share in the conversation. You can catch and share the replay right after I'm done live here. The video will be on replay automatically. You can watch today's extended interviews right on this page. You can check out the empowerment package if you haven't already gotten yours. You can enjoy our recipes of the day, which you'll find right at the bottom of the broadcast page. And we are just wishing you a wonderful, healthy, and thriving day. This is Ocean Robbins, signing off from day 5 in the Food Revolution Summit. And now, here's a peek at what is coming up tomorrow. What's the real reason we see such a massive connection between obesity and diabetes? Why does shedding weight seem like an uphill battle, while gaining it can feel effortless? What is diabetes? And why is it one of the fastest growing diseases on the planet?
Currently, over 70% of the US population is considered overweight or obese, which is really remarkable. If you think about it, that means being at a healthy weight puts people in the minority in the US population.
It's very easy for someone who has never lived in a larger body to cast criticism on someone who is, and that's a terrible thing to do. Because I'm going to tell you now, people who've lived in larger bodies, people like myself, we know more about moderation than anyone else in the world. We know more about overexertion. We know more about restriction than anyone could ever possibly understand, and it's failed us every single time.
In this episode, we'll unravel the true causes of the diabesity epidemic.
We have, as Garth Davis puts it, an obesogenic environment.
The foods that we have in our food supply today are literally, truly, actually physiologically addictive.
Many people that are obese end up becoming diabetic because it starts with insulin resistance. They start to get resistant to the insulin, probably more because of this phenomenon called lipotoxicity.
So type 2 diabetes is caused by the excess kind of ectopic accumulation of body fat.
You'll discover how your brain's survival instincts can keep you stuck in cycles of dieting and struggle. We'll uncover the truth about intermittent fasting, weight loss drugs, diet patterns, and what actually works to prevent and reverse diabetes.
By changing your diet, lowering your saturated fat intake, and losing excess, particularly visceral fat, the kind of fat coiled around your digestive organs, can improve your insulin sensitivity, sometimes enough to completely reverse diabetes, where you have normal blood sugars on a normal diet, which is where we all want to be.
Say yes to the future you want.
This is your journey to embracing your uniquely right-sized body. Let's do this. No matter where you come from or what you've been through, the simple truth is you are meant to thrive. You deserve boundless energy, a clear mind, and a lean and healthy body. You deserve to feel confident and clear about what you eat and why. The Food Revolution Summit is packed with insights, and trying to catch and absorb all of them can be hard. That's why we created the Empowerment Package. With your Empowerment Package, you can own the entire summit, plus all the transcripts and loads of bonus materials for life. Absorb this life-changing material at a pace that's comfortable and easy for you. Join this movement. Support this mission. Buy your Empowerment Package today.